Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Bikini in the Brain. I'm here with the lovely Ashley Cotwell-Sir.
Hi.
She's looking extra Bowie today. Went all out
Yeah.
with the bow.
I
Yeah.
thought I was very spirited and to match my Team Elite Physique tank top.
Looking ravishing, Ashley. Looking ravishing.
Stop.
So, what is today's topic?
Well, I think a great topic would be addressing those bad habits that people have and maybe they don't even know it. So we know the obvious bad habits, right? Like don't go out on the weekends with your friends and get drunk and eat a bowl of chili cheese fries. We know those are bad habits, right? But let's discuss some of those, more minuscule bad habits that maybe we don't even realize we're doing or don't even realize it's a bad habit. And maybe they don't impact your progress much within a week, but if you keep doing it over time, every single day, it might really stop you from achieving your ultimate goal.
Yeah, so wait a minute, just to clarify, I'm not supposed to go out on the weekends, get drunk, and eat a big bowl of cheese fries?
No, I would say no.
I need to get
no,
my notes.
not no.
Get
It
my
might, your progress might be a little affected.
You'd be so proud of me, Ashley. I'm getting my cardio game up because I know you're going to make me move in a week.
Yes.
Vegas, we're going to be doing a cardio class, and then hiking up some mountain. So I'm getting ready. I'm actually prepping for my Ashley visit in a week.
That's hilarious because we're going to be doing cardio and lots of meat.
Yes. All right, let's get to it. So, all right, habits that we don't know are bad, or that we're I think minimizing how much they add up is a good way of putting it too. So what are some of your habits, Ashley? Now I know we all got ours. You have to have yours too.
Yes, I mean, no one's perfect after all, right? So I would say some of my worst habits are, one, not stretching. I oftentimes forget to stretch. Actually, I don't remember the last time I stretched. People think I'm so flexible and stuff. I mean, I kind of am in some areas, but other areas not so much, So I really should be stretching after my workouts just to prevent injury and, to keep nice and limber and agile. So that's one of my bad habits. And I guess another one would be I can be a sneaky snacker. Sometimes I can graze sometimes throughout the day. And I mentioned before, I'm not much of a binger. I hate the feeling of being full. Like, I hate the feeling of being bloated. So it's not like I'll ever give in and just eat a whole pizza or anything like that. But there's a pepperonis laying on the counter, I might take one. And, throughout the day, they could add up. And what I've done before in the past is if I know I'm snacking, I'll use that as one of my meals, which I shouldn't do. You know what I mean? Because it kind of prevents you from seeing how you would actually progress. But yeah, I guess that would be it. You've seen me before at expos or whatever. If I have those samples, I'll just count it oh, I had 10 protein bar samples. I'll just count that as a meal. So yeah. I guess those are my two big bad habits. And I'm being more aware of it. And I'm really trying, especially with the sneaky snacking, not to do that so much. And I feel when we were in quarantine and stuff, when you're around and there's not much to do, you can just snack sometimes out of boredom, and not because you're necessarily hungry. It's just because it's there and you're bored. So I've definitely been a lot better with that lately. But I want to hear some of your bad habits, Adam. What are some bad habits that you have in health and fitness?
So the first one that you had, the stretching one, I'm pretty bad at that. But it's funny, side note. I don't know why, but for some reason last night I watched old school Jean-Claude Van Damme movie where he did this crazy stretching. It was kickboxer. He's stretching. So it just reminded me. Me and Ashley had this inside joke with Jean-Claude Van Damme stretching. One of our friends sits really, really wide with his legs. So we call him man spreading when he sits next to us. We do dinner or lunch and he takes up 3 seats with his legs so wide. We call him Jean-Claude Van Damme because he splits when he sits. It's so funny. It's hilarious. But yeah, I need to be a lot better at stretching. And I don't realize it until I do something that requires me to be like flexible again. And I've been doing like heavy lifting like a bodybuilder for like my whole life. So I'll do something that I should be able to do very easily. Like when we were painting the building here, I just started painting and I was like, oh, I'll just do this for my cardio today. It'll be great. I'll just paint the whole building with the roller. And like I was so sore and I shouldn't have been. If I was like, just because I wasn't flexible in the like motion of
Oh
painting.
yeah.
And it was like almost like risking injury. I was so tight. I was like, I really need to be more flexible. So, and actually, to let everyone know too, I started training differently for more like functionality and flexibility, more of an aesthetic than
Uh-huh.
overall size. So, just for me, I'm a naturally like a smaller dude. So, so now I'm actually, because I usually walk around about 200 pounds. So I'm already down, like, I know this is going to sound crazy, but I'm already down to 186 and being more of like
Ooh,
aesthetic now and more of that,
yeah.
like, instead of being like more men's physique slash bodybuilder style, I'm going to be more like just that more athletic look type of thing. So I'm changing my whole thing. I've been doing it for so long. I'm like, all right, I need to just get more flexible and more functional now for a little
Oh,
while.
snap. I like it. Well, we're going to do a lot of functional things. When you come to visit, I'm going to put you through the tests. We're going to do cardio, hiking, workout classes, Orange Theory. For those of you listening, I recently joined Orange Theory and I actually like it. I thought, you know what, because it was kind of like a mainstream kind of, that it was like a gimmicky kind of gym, for like people that, I don't know, don't take working out that seriously. But I love it because you know what, you can go at your own pace so you can make it hard. And it tracks you and in all your workout and your heart rate and tells you how much you burnt throughout the workout, how many calories. So Adam's gonna try it. I already signed him up for a class. So
Yeah,
yeah.
I think that's a good thing to talk about for people too, because cardio gets boring. And
Yeah.
I've done it too, where I joined like a kickboxing class for my cardio for fun. And I had actually Sam Catlin do. She did 12 of her 16 weeks preps with kickboxing for a Columbia prep, and she got second. She almost won a pro card. So the last 4 weeks we did more controlled. But yeah, so there's always like some fun things you can do. Ashley likes to do like 10K races too, where there's like a group of people. So like you can mix it up and have fun with it. I think that that's a good thing, especially for the off season. A lot of times, kind of going into last week's episode where we talked about bikini competitors being too muscular. I had a girl who won Miss Colorado back in the day, and she was getting pretty muscular, and she wanted to still work out, so we just had her do kickboxing classes because she was so muscular that it was just so easy for her to maintain at that point. So I just have fun with it for pretty much her whole off season. Very little improvements, and mostly just cardio just to stay lean. So I think people don't realize you could do this stuff and prep, that it has to just be treadmill with your hoodie on, and you can make it more fun, which creates less bad habits, less of these habits that
Yep.
we're talking about, like skipping a
Absolutely.
cardio session, because that's so easy to do. Just skip a cardio session because you don't want to do it for the day.
Yep.
I get those check-ins all the time. Oh, I only did 3 of my 4 sessions this week, or I only did 2 of my 4, because of boredom. You don't put it as a priority. So that's a fun way of getting around it. So that was a good solution in itself, Ashley.
Yeah, I'm definitely liking it as cardio. And you know something else? It's great because it's like I sign up for the class and I have to like go, right? Or I get the fine or whatever. But that's good because it's like an accountability thing. Like, oh, I have to be here at 7:30 a.m. Like, and I walk there too. So it's a 1.5-mile walk there, a 1.5-mile walk back. So we're getting some meat in there and we're getting cardio.
So wait a minute. So so Ashley signed me up for this class, and like some girl texted me. She's like, I didn't even know that she was gonna text me. This girl just text me. She's like, hey, we saw you that you're gonna be doing the 7:30 a.m. class. So it's 7:30 a.m. and we're gonna walk there an hour and a half, a mile and a half.
And you have to get there 15 minutes early because you've never been there. So yeah, we
What?
gotta leave at like 6:45. You gotta have one day in my routine. One day, just one day. That's why I said bring light clothing. Don't wear those black heavy pants. You're gonna be sweating so much in the sun. It's been over 100 degrees here in Vegas. So
My prediction is I want to be under 180 by the time I leave. So
yes.
anyway, gosh. All right. So going into your other one, your sneaky snacking. The thing is, so with like a lot of our listeners here, they're both guys and girls, but a lot of them are bikini competitors. So they're smaller, so you're going to have less total calories throughout the day, throughout a prep. You know, it's not uncommon for a bikini prep to be 1,200 calories. That's a very common calorie prep, you know, for a bikini, 1,200, 1,400, and some of the lighter ones might even get to, you know, 1,100 calories. I try to never go below that. But if you're 5 foot flat and you're 98 pounds, you might be at 1,100 calories. Who knows? So that being said, it's they did an actual calorie. If you want to call it a study, it's more of just figuring it out towards the end of the day. I don't want to call it a study, but they had a group of people where they were saying, okay, tell us, you know, stick to your menu plan, but do your normal things. If you have snacks, have your snacks. In that group, they found that the people that were doing that sneaky snacking were about 30 to 40% above their actual calories that they were on their plans, right? So if you think about it and you're at let's say you're a 1,200 calorie person towards the end and you're doing a little bit of snacking, you know, percent's not that much. You know, you're talking 300 calories or so is going to be 25% of a 1,200 calorie diet. So when we're, as a coach, when you're trying to calculate data, and that really is all what the coach's job is, it's data collection at its like fitness form. You know, that's what I look at it as. I try to take a lot of the human equation out of it, which kind of sucks, but when you break it down to math, it's pretty simple. It's, you know, calories plus cardio plus workout plus supplements should equal this result at the end of the week. And then we take your check-in from 1 week, compare it to the week prior, and however much progress you made that week, we use the data of that weekly hypothesis to make an adjustment that's calculated to make more progress the following week. So that's how coaching works. That's exactly how it works. Now, when I'm working with an athlete, usually I'm working within a 15% to 20% caloric deficit presumed for that client. Now, if that client is sneaky snacking and they're 30% off, but I'm working off of a 15 and 20% deficit, you could see how much that throws off my data to make an accurate adjustment. So how can you get a prep that's super successful when you're off by that many calories? You can't. You're taking a lot of guesses, you're crossing your fingers, you're hoping things happen. And so in terms of prep, it's going to be really hard. Now, in terms of transformation, it just might slow you down. But I think that if at the end of the day, you'd rather have predictable results, some data you can go off of to make a proper adjustment. And that's also why I don't like macro dieting, because they found that macro dieting was way more off calories than a structured menu plan for the average person in similar numbers, less, but not 30 to 40%, but in similar numbers of 20 to 30% with inaccurate reporting on that macro tracking. And not really because of the person's fault, because of the food selections are fast food choices, which don't need to be as accurate, just different selections of foods that don't need to be reported as accurately as like a chicken breast would be, you know? So anyways, that's my tangent on the sneakiest snacking.
So don't do it.
Don't do it. Yeah, not while you're in prep at least. And in the off season, and I'm not against macro dieting like in an off season scenario, but in an in season scenario, it's just really hard to calculate data when you're working off such precise numbers, you know? All right, so a couple of the other ones you had were not drinking enough water throughout the day. That was a good one.
Yeah, I do drink enough water throughout the day. I'm very aware of this now, especially since it's been so hot here that it's like I know I'm drinking a lot of water because I get really sweaty in the sun. But yeah, I think that's a very common mistake that people make, not drinking enough water, especially like in the winter time whenever you're not really trying to cool yourself off. And, you know, a lot of people will drink their coffee but won't drink their water, if that makes sense. So they'll drink fluids throughout the day, but they're just fluids that aren't really hydrating them. So I definitely do my water, and sometimes I'll do my Crystal Light too to flavor the water a little bit, you know, so it's not so boring. But yeah, I think that's a very, very common bad habit. I would say a gallon a day for a bikini competitor, right?
Yeah, you're actually pretty much exactly on that. So, and this is actually brings up you brought up another point, which I don't think people realize too. So good bringing it up. But um, with water, the way I say water is I say 1 ounce per pound. So everyone out there, you should be drinking 1 ounce per pound. For Ashley, a gallon of water is exactly 1 ounce per pound for the most part of her weight. It's 120 ounces is in a gallon. So she's about 120 pounds. So there you go. So so yeah, that's the thing. Now, as she salutes some water or cheers some water, is that they call it cheersing water?
Mhm.
I don't
Yes.
drink, so I don't know any of these lingo. It's so funny how bad I am. You know what's funny is when I was like 21, my 21st birthday, like all the trainers took me out and they're like, "Oh, we're gonna get you drunk," and I was like, "No, you're not. I don't drink," you know. But that was like the last time I actually like drank, you know. And they put this like mixed drink together. The bartender, they just mix. You point to a bunch of different things. They have your point and then stop. And so I pointed to like 3 different of these random drinks. They mix it together and they say, okay, give us a juice that you like. And I was like, and I don't drink. So I was like, apple juice? they're like, they're like, this is going to be the worst thing you've ever drank. It's funny because I always run into that scenario with like cheersing or like this, the drink lingo and stuff. That's so funny. So, but good point on the water intake. So pretty much everything internally you need water for. So, you know, it's going to help with keeping your metabolism fast. It's going to help with you losing body fat. It's going to help with so many different things with just muscles and contracting and delivering nutrients. You absolutely need to get that 1 ounce per pound. Now, with that being said, Ashley made a good point, and hopefully this is a good point for Ashley. Your energy drinks, your coffee, anything caffeinated does not count as ounces toward that total number. So there's a lot of debate on this, and I use the rule of thumb as that's negative ounces. So, and that's where it seems to be a common thing. So if you're to drink one of these, right? Shout out to Rain. Product placement. So when you do a 16 ounces of a drink, an energy drink, coffee, because it's caffeinated, you're going to be losing roughly the same amount of water that you're drinking. So 16 ounces of the Rain, it's a diuretic naturally because caffeine's a natural diuretic. Who knows how much is actually leaving? The rule of thumb is some guys count it completely negative. So you would need to add an additional 16 ounces to your day because of the diuretic effect of the caffeine. So your coffees, your whatever. That's an easy rule of thumb. So if I'm 185 pounds right now, I need 185 ounces plus an additional 16 because I drank one of these Rains today. So I would need, another 16 ounces. So that's a good rule of thumb for keeping hydrated, especially for people out there who are just drinking coffee, just drinking caffeinated drinks as their water. And then another thing to think about that I don't think people realize, a lot of people don't realize this one. So I'm gonna ruin a lot of your guys' diets right now, but I'm gonna give you a solution at the end. Okay, so when you do those sugar packets, the stevia packets, the sweet and low, all those packets, those have those have calories in them. They are not calorie free. Okay, so I don't know what genius thought of putting sugar in sugar-free packets, but they do. So the first thing you'll see on those packets, look at any packet of sugar that you want in the United States. And on the back of it, it'll say, the first ingredient will say dextrose, it'll say maltodextrin, it'll say some type of modified sugar of some type, and then it'll have the sweetener that it uses. So it'll have aspartame, it'll have your sucralose, whatever. Even the stevia one has, like, I think that one uses maltodextrin in it. So that is a pure sugar. So each packet has roughly 2 grams of sugar, between 1.5 to 2.5 is the rule of thumb. So if let's say you're doing your coffee and every day you're drinking 2 coffees, but you're using 4 packets of sugar, well, you're adding an additional roughly, 16 to 20 grams of sugar per day with that packet that you're eating. So what's the solution? Ashley uses the solution really well. Why don't you tell them what you use, Ashley, to avoid this?
I use liquid stevia, pure liquid stevia, or they even have pure stevia powder. Now, these you can't really find in the grocery stores or anything like that, or at least I haven't seen them. I ordered them online on like Amazon, but make sure it's pure and read the ingredient list so it's not mixed with anything else. And you'll know it's pure too, because you'll need the slightest little itty bitty amount of like stevia, and it'll be like, whoa, really overpowering. So I think that's a good indicator that it's not mixed with anything. But yeah, always read the label, because that can definitely get to you. And we're going to talk about those empty calories here in a little bit. We're going to circle back to that as well. But I think we should head on to the next bad habit that I've been guilty of this before. Not right now though, but I have been in the past. And it seems like when I'm closer to a show, it happens more and more. Not enough sleep. That is a big no-no. And sometimes you can't help it, but sometimes it's just you being, you know, a little bit irresponsible. Maybe staying up to watch a movie and, you know, you got to be up super early. And I mean, there's different reasons why this can happen. One is because it might be, you know, you just want to stay up late to watch a show or whatever. But also, you know, it's you're messing with your body's rhythm. And one thing that I found really helps me get more sleep is not having caffeine past noon. Like, see, I was like one of those people that were like, oh yeah, I'm so like immune to caffeine that it doesn't do much for me anyway. I'll have a Monster at 3 p.m. or whatever. And then I realized, even though I don't get like an immediate like boost of energy from it, it definitely lingers a little bit. So I found that cutting my caffeine off past noon is like key to some good sleep for me.
Yeah, and you know what's going into this podcast, I was looking at the correlation between sleep and if it actually affects fat loss. And there's a couple studies out that were done on that actually show that it doesn't directly inhibit fat loss, but it causes like hormonal reactions that do inhibit fat loss. So before I just go into it, what I'll do is I'm just going to link that in the description of this. It'll be in the podcast and on the YouTube version, so you can kind of see it. It's real quick. It's like 5 minutes. The guy goes into it really well. And I think that'll be helpful for you guys that are lacking sleep to see, hey, how is this really affecting me? But it's pretty cool to see like how doing all these things, these little things like sleeping and cutting your little sugar packets and whatnot add up to a big end result. And just real quickly on that, on the sugar packet, I just happen to have 2 of them real quick. For those of you that are video, you can see them right here. These are 2 different options, but one is called Pura Sure. It's just pure stevia. You can buy it on Amazon. I think it's like $20 for this packet, which seems like a lot, but it'll last you a year because you use so little of it. And then this new thing, it's actually really cool. It's like flavor drops, and it's pure stevia, but they have flavors in them now. So this one's chocolate. I use this in my coffee, and it's sugar-free.
Adam, they've had flavors for a long time.
Have they really?
Yeah. Sweet Leaf makes like so many different flavors. I've been getting those things since like 2012.
Are you serious? I'm so behind on that. That's funny. Okay, so next topic. Why am I always so behind on the cool things like that? What is funny is that Ashley's always like super up on all these diet hacks. She's really, really good at it. And she'll bring over like new things. To me, it's like, it blows my mind. And she'll be like, oh, those have been around for like 5 years. What are those little cupcake things that you got? They're like 36.
Oh, Smart Cakes.
Oh my gosh. If you guys, okay, and just so you guys know, this is not a sponsor. We don't have a sponsor for the podcast. We just like say things that we use. The Smart Cakes are the best diet hack I've ever had. Those ones. And then the sweet tarts, the Swedish fish that are
Smart Sweets.
Smart Sweets. Yeah, the Smart Sweets. Yeah, those are the only Swedish fish I've ever had, actually, by the way. But they're delicious. So those 2 are really good diet hacks. But what are they called again? The cupcakes?
Smart Cakes.
Smart Cakes. Guys, get those. Those are bomb. They're like 36 calories each. And they taste like such a good way of getting some calories. And that's not like, it feels like you're cheating, but you're not. So
right.
Anyways,
the main ingredient is egg white. So it's pretty low carb. And yeah, for the calories, it's amazing. Oh, so good. I want one now.
So we went into not getting enough sleep. And then
I want to also add on to not getting enough sleep too. You mentioned that it can prohibit your fat loss, but additionally, it definitely affects your mood, and your mood affects your motivation as well. So if you're not getting good sleep, and you're, tired all day, you're probably not going to have the best workout, probably not going to be able to burn the calories that you need to achieve your goal anyway. So, that all ties in together.
Yeah, you know what's going into the sleep thing, if you're having a problem with sleeping, I can't make like a doctor recommendation or anything like that. But one of the things that's helped a lot is CBD oils. Those have really helped people with sleep. Anya has that problem with it too. And she'll take like the CBD oil or the CBD gummies and knocks you out. I don't know. It's like I've used that a few times and it works really good for me too. So maybe that'll be helpful for some people out there.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, now the next one we have is, well, we kind of went into this one, which is loosey-goosey on empty calories. Is there any more you wanted to go into on that?
Yeah, so it's not just the little packets that add up. It's those, it's coffee creamer. It's maybe the condiments that you're using that you're not really paying attention to. Like some people like ketchup on their potatoes or something, and they're just like, oh yeah, I'm not going to measure it, but it looks good enough. Those things really add up. And again, this isn't going to like show overnight, but if you think about how many calories are in a condiment bottle, whatever one they are, just think about like, that definitely adds up. How long does it take for you to go through that whole bottle? So make sure that your condiments that you're using are very low calorie. Make sure that you're not overdoing it with like coffee creamer or something. But if you are putting coffee creamer in, just factor that into your diet. Don't lie about it, if that makes sense. So yeah, just be very careful with little things like that.
Yeah, that's actually a good point because there's a lot of people do just like ketchup on their stuff, and regular ketchup is pretty sweetened and it adds up. Like people don't realize how much of that they use. It's pretty common for someone to be able to use 4 or 5 tablespoons of ketchup in a meal, especially with like your eggs or your meats or whatever to add it in. So they have that sugar-free ketchup, which was pretty close. And then another diet hack that you had was that barbecue sauce. And I always forget the name of the guy. What's the name of the guy? He seems like a cool.
G Hughes or something.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think it's G Hughes. Yeah. He seems like a cool cowboy. I like him. He's on the picture like barbecue sauce, like cowboy hat, but it's sugar-free and they have
Wrong
like
one.
they have like
no,
5.
It's no, he's not the cowboy.
Is it not the one?
No.
Are you sure?
I have the bottle here if you want. I'll get the bottle. You keep talking.
Okay. But that was one of my favorite hacks too, because it was really low in calories. Ended up being I think it was 10 calories, 2 tablespoons. So just add that up and take it into account. Because remember, when we talked about calculating data throughout the end of the week, if you're having, let's say you are, again, going to the bikini competitor, and this applies to the men competitor too, because you do the exact same percentage, you just eat more of it per meal because you have bigger food portions. But if you're having, let's say, it's pretty easy to get 30 to 40 calories worth of ketchup per meal. If you're eating, 6 meals a day, we're talking, close to 200 calories, 200 extra calories. If you're eating 1,200 calories a day towards the end of your prep, like we're talking at the end of your prep, that's 15% more calories. When your coach thinks you're in a 15% deficit and then nothing's happening and you're just like, no, I'm following the menu plan 100%. But it's, and then all of a sudden he cuts your calories. Well, you're eating less calories on the menu plan, but you might be eating, now you finally got to 1,200 calories on your actual food, taking that into account, but it's not as nutritious. It's 15% from ketchup. And that's how quickly it can add up. So who's this guy?
G Hughes. He's
He
not a cowboy.
Oh man, there's another one where he's got a cowboy hat. It's like really close to it. Well, G Hughes.
Yeah, he makes good teriyaki, barbecue, steak sauce, low calorie. You make sure you get the sugar-free version though, because he does have the regular versions, but the sugar-free is so bomb. I love it all.
I bet you they only show his head, but I bet you the rest of him is jacked. He's just like some super nutritious dude who's like
probably
trying to figure out how to make everything sugar-free. So one of the best hacks there. Mr. Hughes is doing, he's a few weeks out. All right, so let's see. All right, so the next one we have on is slacking on cardio. That's a big one. That's a big one. Ashley, give us your take on that because you're more of a cardio queen than I am.
Yeah, I actually appreciate cardio. I see it all the time, Adam. People, at the gym, they're on the cardio machine, but are they really doing cardio. I mean, they're wearing flip-flops. My biggest pet peeve is whenever I see people in the gym and they're just like propping themselves up on the machine, if that makes sense. So like the step mill, for example, you can hold it for balance, right? And you should if you're going fast or if you're getting fatigued. But some people literally put their whole body weight on it, lock out their arms, and like go like really slow. And I'm just like, what are you? Maybe you should just go like a little bit faster and not hold on, and maybe you get things accomplished faster. Because it's like some people really can find ways to cheat with cardio. And even though the machine says, oh yeah, you burnt 300 calories, did you really? Because I'm pretty sure you put like your whole body weight to prop you up, and your legs are the only thing that's kind of working on your toes. Like, you know what I'm saying? So I would say just make sure you're doing it the correct way, and not to be too casual with it. I think, you know, cardio, it can be very boring, right? So some people will just be like, oh, okay, well, I'll just take this time to make some phone calls and that will be my cardio. I mean, that might be some NEAT. That might be you're walking, you're doing some NEAT, but are you actually doing cardio? Are you doing the cardio you're supposed to be doing? You know, if your coach says do 30 minutes on the treadmill, you know, are you really counting that as cardio? Because it's like, you know, you're just kind of taking up space. You're not really getting a workout from it.
Yeah, I think that's a really key one that we need to talk about with people, is that cardio is so underestimated. It's just people look at it at the end of their workout, just get it done, just wait for that timer to hit 30 or whatever it is, versus looking at it like it's the same type of exercise that you would be doing in the gym with weights. So with cardio, you should be working just as hard with cardio as you are working with weights. It's just a totally different format. You know, it's just totally different in terms of how you're doing it. But let's say you're doing HIIT cardio, you should, when you do your exercise in the gym, you're lifting weights, you do your 10 reps, and on your 10th rep, you can't do anymore. You fail. Well, with HIIT cardio, you should be failing the same way. It shouldn't just be the interval system that's pre-programmed. It should be you failing, you know? And with your regular cardio, that should be like doing like a circuit training session where you're working hard. You're not failing, but you're working hard. Your heart rate's super high up. You're not able to just watch your Netflix and just kind of move at a gradual pace. Cardio needs to be taken just as seriously as your workout with weights. Now, what I run into being very, very common is, you know, all of my program, for the most part, is online programming. We rarely do anything in person. People use the gym and whatnot, but for the most part, everything is online. But sometimes I'll have people come from another state. They'll come into the prep center and be like, hey, I want to train with you. I do it on Fridays. I'll train someone on Fridays. And I'll be like, okay, this person's been training for 4 months. Their cardio is super there. They're going to be fine. No big deal. And then I light them up in like 30 minutes. And I'm like, what were you doing where I'm even able to light you up in 30 minutes? Like, what are you doing for your workout? What are you doing for your cardio? And then I look back at their menu plans and adjustments. And these are the same people that I'm adjusting their menu plan, like literally like every week to every other week. And what happens is when you adjust a menu plan that quickly all the time, you run out of room in a prep. You keep cutting too much. And then eventually you run out of room and you hit that lowest end kind of threshold. Come to find out, the reason that you're adjusting it so much is because they're not creating any stimulus with their exercise and cardio to keep their metabolism elevated. And the only stimulus you have is cutting calories, because they weren't working hard enough. So if you need motivation to do your cardio harder, to do your workouts harder, just know that you're going to get paid back with it in calories. If you work hard with cardio and with your workouts, you're going to have more calories in your diet. There's not going to be like a data to prove this probably, because you can't really say, hey, how hard is someone working out in like a kind of format. But just know, if you work harder, you'll have more calories, no doubt about it. So there we go.
Mm-hmm. You tell them, Adam.
I feel like that one, everyone needs to hear that, you know?
Yeah.
Now let's go into the next one, Ashley. This is a good one right here, because we both know these people. Overdoing a cheat meal.
Yes. I never really overdo a cheat meal. Like I mentioned before, I hate that feeling of being bloated. It's like the worst feeling to me. But I know a lot of people that do, right? And their coach allows them like, oh yeah, go out for dinner and have a cheat meal. And they really just go ham on it, like way beyond their limits. and maybe they'll have dessert after, maybe some drinks after, but they definitely take a cheat meal to a whole nother level. And that can seriously backtrack your progress, depending on where you're at. If you're too lean at the time or you're not lean enough, it can make you really regret your decision, because then you realize that what you had in your meal was basically a week's worth of like workouts. Could set you back like a week.
Yeah, I think that's the thing that I think people don't understand it. And if we get anything accomplished today, this podcast, I just really want to get the point of data collection being so important. And so data collection literally is everything for a coach. And if your coach is like saying, hey, just have a cheat meal, like ask them, how are you calculating and adjusting my menu plan, not knowing how many calories I'm having that day? Because you got to remember, if you're doing it in a precise manner where you're kind of really checking your progress every week, you're checking your pictures every week, your weight, your measurements on your hips, your waist, and you're seeing like the change from a week to week basis, it should be fine tuned to a pretty minute percentage of a deficit, 15%, 20%, something like that. Now, let's look at that as a rule of thumb. Let's say that on average, someone burns 2,000 calories for simple math. Well, 15% deficit on 2,000 calories is only 300 calories. It's not a lot of calories, right? So that being said, you take 300 calories per day, you times that by 7 days in a week, that's 2,100 calories, okay? So that person would lose a little less than a pound a week at that deficit. Okay? So now we're talking 2,100 calorie deficit that whole week. How easy is it to go and double that with one cheat meal? So easy, right? So then your coach is just going off of data off of 6 days. And then he's going to be like, okay, let's go on a 30% deficit 6 days of the week. So now because he's just trying to get some response. So now you're eating 600 calories less per day instead of 300 calories less per day. And now you're even more likely to have a bigger cheat meal when that cheat meal rolls around because you're starving. So in the end, I think that a calculated cheat meal makes sense. Now, the whole theory of a cheat meal is that it spikes metabolism and it keeps your body from adapting. And there is some data to support that. But to what capacity do you actually need a cheat meal to actually do that? It's not that high. You don't need 5,000 calories to spike your metabolism. That's just an excuse because people want to eat. If you have a high day and it's a calculated cheat meal, so this is what I do. I call it a free meal, a calculated free meal, or a calorie-based meal. And I'll let my athletes have whatever. They'll have, if they're small and they just need a little bit, they'll do 800 calorie cheat meal once a week. They can eat whatever they want with those 800 calories. If they're farther ahead and they're doing really well, I'll go as high as 1,800 calories for like the guys and stuff. And sometimes we'll even do it 2-3 times a week. It just depends on the person and what they want.
Right.
But it's still calculated, so I can use that data. So I still know the deficit. So if I have a guy doing a 2 times a week, 1,800 calorie cheat meal, well, I tell him, hey, you can go all the way to 1,800 calories, but you can't go over. And you can go all the way under by about 150 calories. So like 1,650 to 1,800 calories. Try to get in with really close with that, as close as you can. That way my math at the end of the week, it still takes that into account and I'm pretty close to it. And I have data to work off of, They're happy because they could eat whatever they want. They get that break. They're not going crazy and like causing themselves to gain 1 pound in one meal. And then they still feel like they have that freedom and that balance. And I still have the data. So it works really well. So be very careful with that cheat meal, because all you're going to do is you're going to pay for it on the other days of the week and you're going to throw off your coach's data. And maybe you should start tracking your cheat meal to give your coach that data, because again, this is all about data collection. So,
right.
So there we go. That was a good one. These are some good topics.
Yeah.
Actually.
I feel like too with the cheat meal, whenever a competitor is given that pass to like, oh, you have a cheat meal, it no longer becomes even like for the taste. It's like, how much food can I eat in this cheat meal? Because I don't know when the next time I'm going to have a cheat meal is. So I better, get it all in. So I think that's like a really bad attitude to have towards like a cheat meal too. I think they can be very effective, like you said. Also, if you're mental sanity, like, okay, I can be a normal person today kind of thing. So I think that they can be very helpful, but very tricky. Just don't go overboard with it.
Yeah, I think that's really good advice, because people need to hear that. And I think a lot of people don't want to hear that. And I think everyone knows this and they don't want to hear it though, because like,
right.
I think it develops bad habits too, because after a show, without having that like control. I think that these are the people that you see a lot of them blow up after a show, put on 20 pounds their first month after a show, because they didn't really learn that control part. They just learned freedom. You know, it's freedom. It's freedom. Let's eat. So, all right. So here, the next one's actually a really good one. And I've ran into this myself, not with me,
Mm-hmm.
but with Anya. And this was,
Yeah.
you know, keeping bad food in the house, you know, and
Yes.
you go
So
ahead
like
and this
this is
one.
so tricky because I know a lot of people have like maybe they have kids or something, or they have a husband that, you know, eats a diet that is different from them. Let's not pretend like the whole family's eating chicken and broccoli. Okay, let's be very realistic. But if you can help it, you know, keep healthier choices around. But if you can't, try to put them out of sight. You know, Hugo, my boyfriend, he has food that I don't eat. I don't want to see it. So I tell him to get it out of my sight. Even the peanut butter, I keep that either in the cart or the garage. That way it's not easy for me to see it on the counter and just like, oh, let me just have like a lick. I have to like go and like put effort towards getting it, if that makes sense. So those types of foods, if you can, try to keep them out of the way, maybe high up in the pantry. So you realize you like the thought passes through your mind before you act on it. Like, oh, that is up there for a reason. I probably shouldn't have it. You know what I mean? I have to work to get it, kind of thing.
Yeah, and I think I underestimated how hard it was for that, because I would come home and my peanut butter would be gone from Anya, and she'd be like, "Don't keep the peanut butter here," and I was like, "Oh man." And so yeah, it even makes sense. So that's a good rule of thumb, like kind of keeping it away and making you have effort to go get it. But yeah, I believe me, I get that way too well. So is there any one of the other things too? I think is if you just don't have it in the house, it's just so easy to just to not do it. You know, you don't put that effort out
Right.
to go to the store, go get the peanut butter, whatever. So maybe your how does that discussion go? What do you do with like Hugo with his foods?
Bad foods, I've been keeping them in the garage.
It's
And just
just
saying like, hey, this is tempting. I don't want to see it.
on your
Or
one.
sometimes what you can do as well, you can put things in the freezer, like, you know what I mean? Because that's another like preventative measure. Like, okay, it's in the freezer. If I really want to eat it, I have to take it out, I have to thaw it, or I have to put it in the microwave. So it's like you have to take that time to think before you act on it. So I've
Yeah,
done that before too. Like foods that, or I'll get like foods that's like maybe somebody sent me some cookies or something, and I'm like, okay, I know I can't have this now. So I'll just put it in the freezer and like, you know, when I can have it, I will, but it's kind of like out of sight, out of mind, and I have to put forth effort.
yeah, and I think Anya was like, you need to get a carb cabinet. She called it like a carb cabinet. But the only thing I have in the house is like rice and stuff though. Rice cakes. I actually have some popcorn. That's the only like good carb I have is like popcorn now. But it was just she wanted me to put it like in uh like a carb cabinet, so that way she wouldn't go in the carb cabinet type of thing. So
With a
yeah, that
lock?
not a lock, but probably would have been smarter. Like a carb cabinet. So but she has her own apartment now, so she controls completely. There's nothing in it. Nothing in her
Well,
her
that's
her
smart.
yeah, no, there's nothing in it. That's why that was actually a big reason why she wanted an apartment too, was to like control all the food in the house type of thing and be fully like prep moded throughout the week.
Mhm.
So okay, so now the next one is I think a really good one that people really underestimate, which is taking too long of rest between sets.
Oh yeah, you already know. You know, you're sitting down during a rest period. You pick up your phone, you scroll on Instagram, you see a post, a video, maybe from Team Elite Physique Instagram account, and you're intrigued, right? So you want to watch it, and it's a 2-minute long video, and before you know it, oh wait, you took too long between your rest periods.
Yeah, yeah, and believe me, guys, I get it. Our Instagram is fire, so I get no, no, but that's I think a huge part of it. So I think what I have, and this is bad to even say as like a coach, but I have my best workouts when I don't have my phone with me.
Me
And
too.
I
Or
pretty much
airplane mode. Airplane
I
mode.
pretty much okay, that's a good idea. I pretty much have to do it. Otherwise, I have this real like I have a bunch of these weird quirks with like my work and like clients and stuff. Like I can't work out like I always want to work out before I go into work because I feel like I get my best workouts there. The problem is when I have updates, like client updates or check-ins to be done, all I think about in the morning is updates. And I'm like, oh, I got to get my check-ins done. I got to get my check-ins done. And it like messes with my workout. Like it messes with my workout because all I'm thinking about. So I've had to like train myself to learn how to not stress about that. So I just wake up earlier, go to the gym. And as long as I can get in the office get my workout in before 9, then I start thinking about it. So um, that was a weird one for me. So maybe there's some different things you guys gotta have to take. If there's something that's weighing on your mind, maybe you do it after that's done. Because for me, a lot of my success came with my workouts back again when I just did my check-ins and then worked out, because it was just always weighing on my mind. So having the phone with you, I was replying to emails and seeing them come in. So now I just put my phone in the locker. Luckily, the gym I'm working out at right now, it actually will give me the signal all the way to the locker, which is nice for my headphones. So I can just press forward, and that's really convenient. Without that, it's pretty hard because then I have my phone there and I'm pressing music, you know? So I would say that would be a big one. Any other tips you got besides like keeping your phone away? Well, airplane
Nope,
mode.
I just do the airplane mode. I don't really listen to music when I lift, only when I do cardio. But yeah, I guess that's the best you can do. I totally understand with that. Like you get a text or you feel like you need to reply to it. Some things like, you know, you have to do something so it kind of distracts you. That definitely is a thing. It happens to me too. So yeah, that's legit. The next two actually kind of go together. Not varying workout routine and not pushing yourself or just going through the motions. So if you're doing the same thing over and over again, it becomes so routine that you just kind of do it without thinking. And that's not a good thing when it comes to working out, because you really want to feel the muscles that you're working. You want to feel the intensity. You want to get a good workout and not just throw around weights or just go through the motions.
Yeah. And I think that's a hard one in our industry, specifically with our form of training, because you run into, especially with the divisions that we kind of specialize in, which is, you know, I specialize in, you know, obviously the men's physique, figure, and bikini. And those divisions, and actually starting to do wellness a lot too. Those divisions are very, very specific on the look of what needs to take place. So for bikini, we'll say it'd be a lot of shoulders, a lot of glutes. It's all about balance, but those two areas are always where a lot of the focus is. And for guys in men's physique, it's about that back width, shoulder width, you know, fullness of the chest. So you're like, your workout program when you're doing these divisions, wellness would be all glutes and quads. When you're doing these divisions, you're doing a lot of repetitive workouts because it's so specific, you know, to a certain look that you have to train specifically for that look. And that's another good thing for you guys to think about. If you're just training like a bodybuilder, but you're doing bikini and you're doing, let's say, men's physique, but you're training like specifically like the typical bodybuilder split, you really should look at your split again, look at your physique, and then make a plan according to like focusing on the areas that need improvement and actually structuring your workout around lagging body parts and whatnot. Now, the problem with that is you run into a lot of repetitive movements. You know, you can have a pro bikini competitor doing a similar routine for literally like the whole year, you know? So it's, you know, she's going to be, if she's lagging in her glutes and she's trying to get her tie-ins, she's going to be hitting those 3 times a week. You know, that's, if everything else is there, that's pretty much, there's not too much options, you know? So it kind of sucks for that part. So I get it, but just always try to do whatever you can to stay in the set. And I think you do a good job of that, Ashley. You stay in the set. You always feel the muscle, even though we're doing similar actions all the time. You know, so I think that you're doing a really good job. Do you have any like tips on that? Like, is it just a mental clarity you have, or is it, what is it that?
You know, especially when I'm with you, it's like I'm in the gym for a reason, right? Okay. If I'm doing cardio, it's easier to zone out. And maybe it's okay to do that because it's already kind of like thinking for you, right? The cardio is thinking for you. As long as you're not like propping yourself up with your arms locked, you know, you don't have to like worry about feeling it because it's forcing you to feel it. But when you're lifting, you know, if you don't have that mind to muscle connection, you're kind of just wasting your workout. Okay. You got to really feel, you got to squeeze, you got to get a good workout from it. And if you realize that, you know, I am concentrating, I am squeezing, but it's still easy, then go up in intensity and weight or rest periods, shorten those. That can be very helpful.
Good. So that's some good advice there. Okay, so going to the next one, and this one was a huge one for me. Actually, I would say this is a huge one for both of us, and for you especially this last year, which is letting your weight fluctuate a lot between off season and in season. That one, there's a lot of coaches that are big on that too. I've heard Kimoto talk about this too, and so the my rule of thumb is about 6 to 8% above your stage weight if you had a regular prep that wasn't like a grueling, flattened out stage appearance prep. So, and just so you can have a kind of a rule of thumb on that, if you're 100 pounds on stage, you're going to be roughly, 110, 108 pounds in the off season. If you were full on stage and were, already filled out with your glycogen. Now, Ashley would be a different example of that because we bring her on stage pretty flat because she has so much muscles. We don't fill her out 100%. So when she does fill out, that's some water weight, that's some, glycogen being stored. And then after that, it's about 6 pounds around that after that initial 4 pound or so jump. So I think it's what 10 pounds or so, 8 to 10 pounds, you'll stay above stage weight.
Yeah, I try not to let myself go too much. I haven't done that in a while. Basically, since being coached with you, I haven't let myself go, which is good because it's
Yeah.
a lot of work to get back.
Yeah. And it's crazy. It sneaks up on you, especially with someone who's as active as you in the competition world where like, and this is the thing, guys, no matter who you are, even if you're Ashley or you're, Breon or you're one of these like top guys, like it does get harder at a certain point to lean out, and that's what a lot of the career enders are, how much harder preps have to be later on because someone has done so many preps, their body's more adapted to it. They're better at adapting to you being a low calorie deficit. You've dieted 20 times, you're doing 6 shows a year. You don't have a lot of time for recovery because you're doing 6 shows a year and it catches up with you, So if you keep your body weight close to your stage weight, you're not going to have as severe of a time prepping because one day you're going to be doing a real big show. Your body's finally not going to respond. It's been responding your whole life. And all of a sudden you're crashing. That becomes the prep that ends you because you're like, I don't want to do that anymore. It was so hard. I don't want to do that anymore. So I think that that's the best thing for motivation is staying close to your stage weight, but also your best for your like mental sanity too, of like just feeling good and feeling confident throughout the year. So
Absolutely. So
yeah.
moving on to the next topic, you know, throwing your weight around and not focusing on your form. It kind of is like the one previously, but I feel like this is more of a guy thing perhaps. You just kind of want to go heavy to impress, to show off, and maybe you're not really focusing on your form so much. You're just kind of doing it for the gram, I guess.
You know what females, they do this with hip thrusts. They do it with hip
Yeah.
thrusts. You see
Oh
them
yeah.
all the time, the 4-plate hip thrust, the whatever. And I'm like, the problem is when you start doing excessive loads where it's like crazy heavy, you really do use a lot of your quads in like a hip thrust or a bridge or something that's weighted. Like you really do use a lot of it when you're throwing these crazy loads on. You can't concentrate on squeezing your glutes. And if you look at some of these women that have really crazy glutes that a lot of women admire to have or aspire to have, you'll look at like Ashley, what do you put on the hip thrust? One plate, probably max.
Something
Usually,
like that. I can't remember. Something.
yeah, it's like one plate on the hip thrust. Usually we'll do like a quarter and really squeeze hard.
Yes.
Frida does the same thing. The most she does is like a plate for the most part. She just squeezes it and says, I make lightweight feel heavy. That's my favorite thing that she says, make lightweight feel heavy. And it's just because she's squeezing so hard. So like the form and squeezing and actually getting the right contraction is so important. And people underestimate that, just throwing load around, all the time. So great for powerlifting and for strength training. You're supposed to incorporate as many muscles as you can for those forms of lifting. But for bodybuilding, it's about constant time under tension. It's about feeling the muscle. It's about taking it to exhaustion. So it's a different way of training. And I think that that's a good one to talk about. Now, also the next one, like failing to plan workouts or failing to have a plan B. I want to know your input on this one.
So, especially nowadays with this virus thing, and you never know what gym is going to be closed or what rules they'll have. it's always important to have a plan B or to plan your workout in advance, okay? And not just, and I'm not saying like you have to have like a list of exactly what you're gonna do, but maybe a general idea of like, okay, Monday I'm gonna do shoulders, Wednesday's gonna be back, Thursday's gonna be legs. You get the idea. Because a lot of times if we don't really realize how often we're training something, we can be overtraining one body part and not training another body part enough, okay? And as far as having a plan B, it's always important to be like, okay, you know what? If for some reason I can't get on cardio equipment today, maybe they're all used up, maybe it's broken, whatever the case may be, like, okay, I can always go to this trail and do a run or something of that nature.
Yeah, and I think that's really funny because that's actually a good point. And I've done that myself before when I'm like traveling and stuff. And it's such a bad workout. You know, what'll happen is I'll walk into a gym, I'll be traveling for a week or whatever. I didn't keep track of anything. And I'll be, and then I'll have like a friend there or something like, oh, what are you working? And I'll like squeeze my muscles to feel which one, like I'll flex them to feel which one's sore and which one's not. I'm like, oh, I'll do, I think shoulders is good. I'll do shoulders today. That's like the worst way to plan a workout. Like just whatever's not sore. Like that's such bad planning. And I've done that myself, but it's like such a waste, you know? So I rarely do I get like a great week of progress when I do something like that. Now, the last one I really like a lot, Ashley.
Mm-hmm.
I love, this is my favorite one of the day. Why don't you say it?
Not letting other people's opinions get to you. I know we've covered this before in previous podcasts, like, you know, the family member that says, oh, you're getting too skinny, or the friend that says, you don't need to get any leaner, or you don't need to put any more muscle on, you know, and it's just other people's opinions, but it's not really what's it's not in line with your goal. Like, you know that, okay, in order to get on stage, I actually do need to get leaner. But sometimes you hear these voices in your head and like, you're like, okay, well, maybe they're right. Maybe I am getting too lean. I should eat more. Yeah. Or I should train less. I shouldn't do as much cardio because they said I'm too lean. So maybe I am, but listen to your coach. Okay. Listen to your coach, not your friends, not your family, and don't let their opinions get to you. Okay. There's many different reasons why people say the things they do. But at the end of the day, you're trying to accomplish a goal. You're trying to make yourself happy. And that's all that matters.
Yeah. And you know, I think that's a huge, like powerful thing when you're talking about just not letting other people's opinions affect you, because that's honestly what there's this like saying that says, show me someone who's not being talked about negatively and I'll show you someone who's not successful, you know? And that's just the reality of things, you know, like as soon as you start climbing in any capacity, whether it's your fitness, your business, your whatever, you're gonna have people talk negatively about you. That's okay, you know. But as soon as it's becomes and it takes over, or it's consuming you, and you're getting focused on that negativity, that's when it's not okay, you know. So I became like personally, I became successful when I just stopped caring about what people thought about me, because they're out there. I hear people all the time. It'll come back to me. I'm just like, and people will tell me, oh, did you hear whoever said? And I'm like, just don't tell me. I don't care. Like, I'm glad they know who I am because I don't even know who that person is. You know, so like for me, it's just there's two different ways of being. There's this like saying, and Gary Vee says it. He's like, you know, there's two ways of building the biggest building in the city. One is to start building your building and then just work on your building and getting it to be the biggest, you know? So you working on your building of fitness and you getting your building to be the biggest that way. Two is to tear every building down around you so yours is just by default the only building left and is the biggest, right? I'm about building my building and focusing on my building, and that's it. I don't even pay attention to the other buildings. Like I could care less about them, you know? So I think when you get to that point and you're free of that weight of people's opinions, then you're going to be so much more successful in fitness, in life, in everything, because you just truly get to the point where you don't care. And not even where you get to the point where you don't care, but you don't even pay attention at a certain point. That's where I'm at now. I could care less. I don't even pay attention, which feels really good to just do whatever you want without the consequence of worrying about people's opinion. And so I think that everyone needs to do that as a competitor, because it is so scrutinized, especially by friends and family and parents and people saying, oh, you're obsessed because you go to the gym all the time. Of course you're obsessed. So what? Like, that's what it takes to be good at something. You know, no one has ever, like, you think Michael Jordan wasn't obsessed with being the best basketball player? Of course he was obsessed.
Right.
Any rational person would see how hard Michael Jordan worked and say it's too much, because it is for that person, because they're not trying to be the best basketball player that ever lived. Michael Jordan every day wanted to be the best basketball player that ever lived. I mean, it's a point of obsession to be great that can be confused with being bad, but also can be confused. What no one talks about that now. You know, they just say he's the best that ever played, or Kobe Bryant, or whatever. And he was just as crazy with the stuff. So I think that if you want to reach that level, you gotta not let those people's opinions matter to you, because it's so easy to say, oh yeah, maybe I am putting too much time in the gym. Maybe I am too focused on my eating. Maybe this is crazy. Of course it's crazy. And, you know, everyone who did anything successful in life that took everything from them is a little bit crazy with whatever it is that they're trying to specialize in. If you guys knew my day on a daily basis, like it's funny, trainers will be like, oh, I want to do that one day. I'm like, no, you don't. Like, come work with me for a week and let's see if at the end of the week you have any energy whatsoever. So I promise you, the pace at which I do this takes being completely crazy about it, you know? And so, but I love it because it's what I love. So it's like, whatever, but that's what it takes to get to that level. And one day I'm going to be that, hopefully one day I'm going to be that top guy, but you know, I'm not going to let anyone outwork me to get there. That's for sure. So with that being said, you guys keep working and don't let other people's opinions. That's a big one to me, obviously, because it takes
That's
it.
right.
How many people tried to tell you you're too crazy with this stuff for years? You know, how
Yeah,
many
like I always get I always did get like, oh, you're obsessed, or don't you have a life? Like, yeah, I have a life and it's amazing. I get to travel and do the things I love to do. So what if it doesn't mean like going out on the weekends and getting drunk with you guys? What does that make my life any less fun? I love my life. I couldn't picture it any other way. Well, it's an amazing journey I've had, and I don't know. I wouldn't change it. So
Yeah. One of the worst things that I think honestly, you could call me anything you wanted to. You could call Ashley anything you wanted to. We wouldn't care unless you said average. If you
oh
said
yeah, I don't like
they're
that. The
average,
A
I'd be,
word.
yeah, that's the real A word, average, you know, being average. I don't
Mhm.
want to be in the masses. I don't want to be conformed to what you find acceptable amount of exercise, what you find acceptable amount of work, whatever. I want to be exceptional, you know? So
Mhm.
anyway, with that, guys, I hope that you're a little bit more above average this week than you were last week. I hope this inspires you a little bit. You let us know if we missed something, put it in the comments. Maybe we can put that as a whole nother podcast. And any last words, Ashley?
I think you guys are all so awesome, and thank you for tuning in to the Bikini and the Brain podcast. We love you.
We do. It makes it so much fun. We really appreciate it. It's becoming like a follow thing. We really, really love it. So thanks for sharing. Thanks for rating us 5 stars. Pretty please. And we will talk to you next week. Bye-bye.